things, and I changed the clothes, and my clothes, and I got in my car, and I drove to Howard Johnson's, and I parked the car, and I went into Howard Johnson's, and I went through the big glass doors, and I couldn't find the guy. And when I turned around, the whole episode returned to me. I remembered it, and I knew I had done this before. And I'm not kidding you, Dolores. I'm standing there in the Howard Johnson's restaurant, and I started laughing because I knew exactly what was going to happen when I turned around. And I just, without turning around, I just stood there, and I laughed and laughed and laughed. And finally, when I got tired of laughing, I turned around. And there's this guy. He's walking in the door surrounded by a bevy of women. So I go running up to him, and I introduce myself to him, and I say, I can hardly wait to find out about this promotion and hand out the flyers. Well, Dolores, the guy went totally white. He stepped back. His mouth fell open, and he said, how do you know who I am? I just got into town. You cannot possibly know what I look like. How do you know this? Well, Dolores, that wasn't part of my future memory episode. So I had to get really creative. Yeah. And I thought for a minute, and then I said to him, lucky guess. And that's all I could say to him, lucky guess. And I just sloughed it off, and we had our meeting. But do you know, for my entire employment with this guy, and it was about, a couple of weeks long, maybe 2 or 3 weeks,
yeah,
he would never touch me. He would never be close to me. He would hardly be in the same room with me unless he was on the other end of the room because I spooked him out.
You must have freaked him out.
I did.
Probably.
I did. That's how real future memory episodes are. And some people think, well, these pre-happenings, these previews, these overlays of reality enable us to prepare, to get ready for the future before it occurs.
Yeah.
And the purpose of that maybe is to experiment, maybe to change the future. In other words, we change our mind. When we pre-live it, we find out, no, I don't want to go through that, so we can change it. Well,
that's what in my work we found out. There's many probabilities, possibilities.
Well, Dolores, what I found out was just the opposite. Let me give you an example.
But the main thing is you didn't remember it until you were going through it.
I didn't that one. I didn't that one. The others,
that
was not the case.
It didn't come back to you until you experienced it.
That was true in that one.
Yeah,
that was not true in the others that I had. That is not true with all of the other people I had sessions with.
Yeah.
It was true with some. It was not true with all. Now, let me share with you a woman in the state of Washington. She was just walking through her living room, and she had one of these future memory episodes where she pre-lived her husband coming home and saying that he had a meeting he had to go to. He didn't know about this meeting in advance. He had to go to this meeting, and he left, went to the meeting. There was a serious car accident, and he totaled the car. And that so freaked her out that she became very, very hyper alert. Well, when her husband came home several hours later, and he said to her, well, there's been a sudden meeting that's called, I'm going to have to go to it. She intervened. She said, oh, well, I'd like to drive. So she intervened in the event. She drove him to the meeting. She drove him home. There was no accident. And she breathed a sigh of relief. By intervening, she was able to turn it around.
See, that's what I mean.
Well, Dolores, hold on. A couple of days later, same week, another sudden meeting turned up. This time he didn't tell his wife. He went to it. There was a serious accident, and he totaled the car.
So it was meant to be.
Her intervention only delayed the episode. It did not stop it.
All right, yeah.
Now, hold on just a minute here. Let me tell you a little bit about some of the other things I noticed, and then let's go for the big one.
Okay,
some of the things
as you're talking, you're reminding me of an incident that happened in my family. I didn't know what it was. We just chalked it up to one of the weird things that happened.
I think a lot of your audience is going to click here.
But you want me to tell this one real quickly before you get into the big one?
Do you want to tell yours? Sure.
Okay, because you just reminded me. It was so weird. But it was my daughter, and she was asleep. And her teenage daughter was in the bathroom, taking a shower and getting ready to go to bed. And she was asleep, and she thought she was having a dream. Her daughter come running into the room, crying and hollering, totally naked. And she said she was cutting her toenails, and she cut her toe, and it was bleeding. Well, and anyway, then it was like that was the end of it. And my daughter was saying, wow, what a weird dream. And she rolled over, and then the next instant, here she really came running into the room. It was like it was repeating itself.
Mm-hmm.
And she thought maybe she just saw it before it happened or something.
Well, some people do have them in the dream state or the alpha state, but most people have these episodes when they're wide awake.
But she didn't know what to call it, just a weird thing,
Yeah, well, most people are not familiar with the term future memory, and most people haven't read my book, Future Memory.
Yeah, so we'll have to tell her, now you were just having a future memory.
She was having a future memory episode.
All right, now go on with your example.
Yeah, Dolores, when I ask these people, why do you suppose future memory episodes occur? Invariably, they would call them pre-happenings or previews that enable them to see ahead and give extra time to prepare themselves. Some people call them advanced practice sessions in living.
Yeah.
Some people call them a chance to experiment with other possibilities in living. Some people call them a window into their future. But what I noticed when I really dug deeper is that most people felt that future memory episodes enriched and enlivened their life while imparting a sense of purpose and meaning. They regarded it as a gentle nudge to help them live life more sensibly and more responsibly. It reestablished a natural rhythm to how their lives unfolded. In other words, kind of like a flow state. It left them with a keen sense that each person and each activity matters, no matter who you are and what you are. Well, that's all well and good, except that it didn't satisfy me. And I really didn't make the connection to what I think is really going on here until I started studying brain development in children. And that's when I hit pay dirt. Children in the process of temporal lobe development. Now, your temporal lobes are that section of the brain at or near the temples on each side of your brain.
The head. Okay.
Each side of your head.
Okay.
Those are your temporal lobes.
Part of the brain, what does that part represent? What activity?
Well, they're like the libraries of the brain. That's where you have... that's where is stored all the shapes, sounds, all the stuff of life is stored there. It's your incredible libraries. It's called the Imagination Center.
Okay.
We can go on with all kinds of terms about what the temporal lobes are, and they're located at or near the temples.
Okay.
So the temporal lobes. A child by the age of 4 is almost entirely future-oriented. They are so attuned to the future that he or she will spend most of their waking hours projecting into the future, living events before they occur, practicing about future events, encounters in advance. That's what they're doing. You look at kids between the ages of about 3 to 5. This is when the temporal lobe development is, or most of it is. And that's what they're doing. And
but they don't have any way to communicate that because they wouldn't understand it.
It's one of the major ways a child has to explore and practice living. In other words, you cannot progress through the earth plane without a sense of future. It's what gives you continuity and contrast. So that's what these kids are doing.
I have contact with your past to function in today, in a normal world. But do you think it also has to do with the future?
I think future is absolutely essential. When I started looking at actual brain development in kids from 3 to 5, they pre-live the future on a regular basis. They spend more time in the future than in the present. They play with futuristic possibilities as a way of getting ready. This enables them to rehearse. They have no natural understanding of time-space states, so they consider future an aspect of now.
Okay.
That's how they gain perspective and continuity. The idea of continuous scenery and connected wholes, it's all from these future memory practices or rehearsals that they have. Well, my dear Dolores, hold on to your hat. In my research of near-death experiencers and other people so impacted by other transformational events, they invariably started remembering the future before it occurred, either through future memory episodes or other types of futuristic abilities, like clairaudience or what have you. In other words, tuning into the future is part of the after effects of these kinds of experiences. Well, when I looked at that, when I looked at how it was happening, I made the connection. When we have undergone a major transformational event, it doesn't matter how it happened, we automatically revert to the same behavior patterning as children do between the ages of about 3 to 5, and I believe for the same purpose. With adult experiencers, we often pre-live the future on a regular basis through different kinds of dream episodes, visions, future memory episodes.
Yeah.
We pre-experience life's challenges and opportunities before they occur as a way of preparing to meet futuristic demands.